The slap echoed through the marble lobby like a gunshot. Victoria Shaw's manicured hand connected with the janitor's weathered face so hard his mop clattered across the floor. "On your knees," she hissed. "Pick it up like the trash you are." Marcus Brennan, 52 years old, single father, slowly knelt, not to obey, but to retrieve the fallen photograph of his dying daughter. What this billion-dollar CEO didn't know: the man she'd just struck in front of 30 witnesses owned 51% of her company. And in exactly 9 days, at the annual shareholder meeting, he would take everything she had. Before we continue, comment which city you're watching from, so I can see how far this story travels. The fluorescent lights in the maintenance closet flickered twice before Marcus Brennan pulled the chain. 4:17 in the morning. Same time he'd been waking up for 3 years now. Same ritual. Same silence. He reached for his work shirt, hanging on the rusty nail behind the door. The fabric was thin at the elbows, worn soft from 1,000 washes. His name tag read simply, Marcus, Maintenance. No last name, just Marcus, like he didn't deserve a full identity. His phone buzzed on the metal shelf, a text from County General Hospital. "Lily stable through the night. Vitals holding. She asked for you." Marcus pressed the phone against his forehead and closed his eyes. 3 years of texts like this. 3 years of holding his breath every single morning, waiting to find out if his little girl had made it through another night. "I'm coming, baby," he whispered to nobody. "Daddy's coming right after his shift." He grabbed his mop and bucket and pushed through the door into the basement corridor of Grandview Tower. 47 floors of glass and steel and money above him. And here he was, 60 feet underground, invisible. That's how he wanted it. That's how it had to be. Chamotse. Edgar Price was already waiting by the service elevator, a cup of gas station coffee in each hand. 68 years old, bad knee, worse back, but still showing up every day at 4:30 like clockwork. "Figured you'd need this." Edgar handed Marcus the coffee. "Cold one out there this morning." "Thanks, Ed." Marcus took a long sip. "How's the knee?" "Same as yesterday, same as it'll be tomorrow." Edgar punched the elevator button. "You look like hell, by the way. Lily okay?" "She made it through the night." "That's good. That's real good." The elevator doors opened with a grinding protest. Both men stepped inside. "Victoria's coming in early today," Edgar said, watching the floor numbers climb. "Got some big investor meeting. Whole executive floor's been buzzing about it." Marcus kept his eyes on the numbers. "That's so." "Word is, she's in a mood. Fired her driver yesterday for being 2 minutes late. 2 minutes. Edgar shook his head. "Just wanted to give you a heads up. Stay out of sight if you can." "Always do." The elevator stopped at the lobby level. The doors opened to reveal the grand entrance of Grandview Tower, all marble and chrome and morning light streaming through windows 3 stories high. Marcus stepped out, mop and bucket in hand. Just another invisible man, starting another invisible day. The lobby was quiet at 5 in the morning. Only security guards and early bird analysts typing away at the coffee bar. Marcus liked these hours. The building felt almost human when it was empty. Almost peaceful. He started in the east corner, working his way methodically across the marble floor. Dip, ring, mop, dip, ring, mop. The rhythm was meditative. It gave him time to think. Time to remember. Sarah used to laugh at him when he'd zone out like this. "Earth to Marcus," she'd say, waving her hand in front of his face. "Where'd you go?" "Nowhere," he'd always answer. "Just thinking." Thinking about what? About how lucky I am. God, he missed her. 3 years gone, and it still hit him like a freight train sometimes. The cancer had taken her in 8 months. 8 months from diagnosis to gone. They'd burned through their savings, mortgaged the house, sold everything that wasn't nailed down, trying to buy more time. It wasn't enough. It was never enough. And then 6 weeks after the funeral, the doctors found the same genetic marker in Lily. Marcus stopped mopping. He pulled out his wallet and looked at the photograph he kept there. Lily at age 4 before the diagnosis. Gap-toothed smile, pigtails, chocolate ice cream smeared across her chin. The happiest kid in the world. Now she was 7. Spent more time in hospitals than playgrounds. Knew the names of all her nurses. Had a favorite IV pole she'd decorated with stickers. She still smiled, though. Even on the bad days. Even when the treatments made her so sick, she couldn't keep anything down. "You're my brave girl," Marcus would tell her every night. "You're the bravest girl I know." "Braver than you, Daddy." "Way braver than me, sweetheart. Way braver than me." Marcus put the photograph back in his wallet and kept mopping. By 6:30, the lobby was coming alive. Executives in expensive suits streaming through the revolving doors, briefcases in hand, phones pressed to their ears. They walked right past Marcus like he wasn't there, like he was just another piece of furniture. That was fine. That was the plan. What none of them knew, what nobody in this building knew except Edgar, was that Marcus Brennan wasn't just some janitor. 3 years ago, when Grandview Corporation was on the brink of bankruptcy, when the stock had cratered to pennies and the vultures were circling, Marcus had made a decision. He'd taken everything. Every penny left over after Sarah's treatments. The life insurance payout. The money from selling their house. All of it. And he'd bought stock. 51% of the company acquired through a blind trust under the name Brennan Family Holdings. The purchase was perfectly legal, perfectly anonymous. Nobody connected the dots because nobody thought to look at the janitor. Why had he done it simple? Sarah's grandfather had founded this company in 1962. Built it from nothing into something that mattered. When the family lost control in the 80s, it broke something in Sarah. She'd always dreamed of getting it back, of restoring what her grandfather had built. Marcus had promised her right there in the hospice room, holding her hand as she slipped away. "I'll take care of Lily," he'd whispered. "And I'll get your grandfather's company back. I promise." He'd kept the first promise every single day. The second promise was almost complete. The shareholder meeting was in 9 days. And Marcus Brennan, the invisible janitor, was about to become the most powerful man in the building. The commotion started around 7:15. Marcus heard it before he saw it, the clicking of expensive heels on marble moving fast. Then a voice sharp as broken glass. "I don't care what the contract says. I want him gone by noon. Do you understand me, noon?" Victoria Shaw swept into the lobby like a cold front moving in. 42 years old, power suit hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. Her assistant Hannah scurried behind her tablet, clutched to her chest, trying to keep up. "Ms. Shaw, the legal team says we can't terminate without cause." "Then find cause." Victoria stopped in the middle of the lobby and turned on Hannah. "That's what I pay you for, isn't it? To solve problems? Or are you as useless as everyone else around here?" Hannah's face went red. I'll talk to legal again." "You'll do more than talk. You'll get it done." Victoria checked her watch. "I have the Sterling investment meeting in 3 hours. I need everything perfect. Everything." She started walking again, heels clicking like gunfire on the marble. Marcus kept his head down, mopping the same spot over and over. Stay invisible. Stay out of sight. Just get through the day. But Victoria was walking straight toward him. No. Not toward him. Toward the elevator bank just past him. He was just in the way. He stepped aside, pulling his mop bucket with him. That's when his bucket caught the edge of the marble tile. The soapy water sloshed over the edge. Not much. Maybe a cup's worth. Just enough to create a small wet patch right in Victoria's path. She didn't see it. Her heel hit the wet marble at full stride. Her ankle twisted. She stumbled forward, arms pinwheeling, grabbing at empty air. She didn't fall. But she came close. Close enough to feel the humiliation of nearly face-planting in her own lobby. Close enough to need someone to blame. Victoria Shaw spun around, her face flushed with rage. You! The word came out like a curse. Did you do that on purpose? Marcus held up his hands. Ma'am, I'm sorry. The water splashed when I moved the bucket. It was an accident. An accident. Victoria stepped closer. An accident that could have broken my neck. I apologize, ma'am. I'll clean it up right away. You'll clean it up. Victoria laughed. It wasn't a pleasant sound. Do you have any idea who I am? Do you have any idea what this meeting is worth? The lobby had gone quiet. Everyone was watching now. Executives frozen mid-step. Security guards exchanging nervous glances. Hannah stood behind Victoria, eyes wide, clutching her tablet like a shield. Marcus kept his voice calm. Ma'am, I said I was sorry. It won't happen again. It won't happen again. Victoria mimicked his tone, high and mocking. Because you won't be here. You're fired. Ms. Shaw. Hannah stepped forward. Shut up. Victoria didn't even look at her. Her eyes were locked on Marcus. I want this man out of my building in the next 10 minutes. Marcus felt something shift in his chest. Not anger. Not exactly. Something older. Something that had been building for 3 years. He thought about Sarah. About Lily. About all the nights he'd spent mopping these floors, keeping his head down, waiting for the right moment. 9 more days. He just needed 9 more days. Ma'am, he said quietly, I can't afford to lose this job. Then you should have thought about that before you tried to kill me. I wasn't trying to kill you. It was water. It splashed. I apologized. And I don't care. Victoria stepped even closer. People like you think you can just coast through life doing the bare minimum, waiting for handouts. Well, not in my building, not on my watch. She was close enough now that Marcus could smell her perfume. Something expensive and sharp. I'm going to ask you one more time, she said, her voice dropping to something almost intimate. What is your name? Marcus. Marcus Brennan. Well, Marcus Brennan. Victoria smiled. Let me tell you something about the real world. In the real world there are people who matter. And there are people who mop floors. You are the second kind. You have always been the second kind. And you will always be the second kind. She reached out and flicked his name tag with her finger. No last name. How fitting. You don't even deserve a full identity. The lobby was dead silent. Somewhere behind him, Marcus heard Edgar's sharp intake of breath. Stay calm. Stay invisible. 9 more days. I understand, ma'am, Marcus said. I'll pack up my things. He turned to go. That's when Victoria grabbed his arm. Did I say you could leave? Her fingers dug into his forearm. Not hard enough to bruise. Just hard enough to remind him who was in charge. You don't just walk away when I'm talking to you. Victoria's voice echoed off the marble. You stand there and you listen until I'm finished. Marcus turned back to face her. What else would you like to say, ma'am? I would like to say that people like you make me sick. Victoria released his arm and began circling him slowly like a shark. You show up. You do the absolute minimum. You collect your check. And then you go home to your sad little life and complain about how unfair everything is. She stopped in front of him. Tell me, Marcus, what do you do with your paycheck? Let me guess. Beer gambling. Some woman who's just as pathetic as you are? Marcus felt his jaw tighten. I have a daughter. A daughter. Victoria's eyebrows rose. Oh, that's even better. Some poor child stuck with you as a father. Does she know her daddy is a loser who can't even mop a floor properly? The photograph in Marcus's wallet felt like it was burning against his chest. Don't talk about my daughter. Excuse me. Victoria's eyes narrowed. Did you just give me an order? I asked you not to talk about my daughter. And I will talk about whatever I damn well please. Victoria took another step closer. This is my building, my company, my rules, and if I want to talk about your pathetic excuse for a family, I will." Marcus said nothing, but his hands, still gripping the mop handle, were shaking. "Let me guess," Victoria continued. "The mother's not in the picture, ran off with someone who actually has a future, left you holding the bag. Am I close?" "My wife died." The words hung in the air. For just a moment, just a fraction of a second, something flickered across Victoria's face. Something that might have been human. Then it was gone. "Well," she straightened her jacket, "I'm sure she's in a better place. Certainly better than being married to you." Marcus's grip on the mop handle tightened until his knuckles went white. "My daughter," he said slowly, "is in the hospital. She's been in the hospital for 2 years. Same disease that killed her mother. And that's my problem. Why?" "It's not." Marcus met her eyes. "I'm just asking you to have some basic human decency." Victoria laughed, that cold, sharp sound again. "Human decency. That's rich coming from a man who nearly broke my ankle and then tried to walk away." She turned to the gathering crowd. "Did everyone hear that the janitor wants me to have human decency?" Nobody laughed. Nobody moved. They just watched, frozen like witnesses to a car accident. Victoria turned back to Marcus. "Let me tell you something about human decency, Marcus." She pronounced his name like it was something disgusting. "Human decency is earned. It goes to people who contribute something to this world, not to people who push mops for a living." "Everyone contributes something, ma'am." "No, everyone does not." Victoria stepped so close he could feel her breath. "Some people build empires. Some people clean up after them. That's the natural order. That's how it's always been. And that's how it will always be." She reached up and straightened his collar, a gesture of mock tenderness that made his skin crawl. "You should have stayed invisible, Marcus. That's where you belong. In the shadows. Out of sight. Forgotten." She patted his cheek once. "Now pick up your mop and get out of my building." Marcus bent down to grab the mop that had clattered to the floor. That's when the photograph fell out of his pocket. It landed face up on the marble. Lily's gap-toothed smile, Lily's chocolate-smeared chin, Lily's bright, beautiful, alive eyes staring up at the ornate ceiling. Victoria looked down at it. Oh, how precious. Before Marcus could react, Victoria bent down and picked up the photograph. She studied it with theatrical interest. "This is the daughter, the sick one. Give that back. She does look rather peaked. Then again with your jeans. Give it back." Marcus's voice had changed. Something dangerous in it now. "Please. Please." Victoria smiled. "That's better. See, even the mop pusher can learn manners." She held out the photograph. Marcus reached for it, and Victoria pulled it back. "Actually," she said, "I think I'll keep this. A reminder of what happens when the help forgets their place." Something broke inside Marcus Brennan. 3 years of silence. 3 years of patience. 3 years of watching his daughter waste away while he mopped floors and stayed invisible and waited for the right moment. And this woman was going to take the only photograph he had of Lily from before she got sick. No. The word came out low and final. "You won't." He reached for the photograph again. Victoria yanked it away and held it behind her back. "What are you going to do? Marcus hit me." She laughed. "Go ahead. Give me a reason to have you arrested. I'd love to see you try." Marcus stood very still. He thought about what would happen if he lost control. The assault charges. The jail time. The months or years away from Lily. She would die without him. She would die alone. So he took a breath, and another, and another. "Ma'am," he said, his voice barely a whisper, "that photograph is the only picture I have of my daughter from before she got sick. It's not worth anything to anyone except me. Please." Victoria studied his face, looking for weakness, looking for something to exploit. "Say you're worthless." "What?" You heard me? Victoria smiled. Say, I am worthless, and I'll give you your precious picture back. The lobby was completely silent. 30, maybe 40 people watching. Executives, security guards. Hannah with her tablet, tears streaming down her face. Edgar by the elevator, fists clenched at his sides. Marcus Brennan, majority shareholder of Grandview Corporation, looked at the picture of his dying daughter in Victoria Shaw's manicured hand. I am worthless. Victoria's smile widened. I can't hear you. I am worthless. Louder. I am worthless. Now get on your knees and say it. Marcus looked at her. At this woman, who had everything money power this building, and still needed to crush someone beneath her heel just to feel alive. He thought about Sarah's grandfather, who had started this company in a garage with nothing but a dream. He thought about Sarah dying in that hospice bed, making him promise. He thought about Lily in her hospital room right now, probably asking the nurses when Daddy was coming. Then Marcus Brennan got on his knees. The marble was cold through his thin work pants. He could feel every eye in the lobby on him. The humiliation was total, complete, suffocating. I am worthless. Victoria threw the photograph at his face. It fluttered down and landed on the floor in front of him. Good boy. Victoria stepped over him, literally stepped over his kneeling body, and headed toward the elevator. Security, have this man escorted out. He's no longer employed here. Marcus stayed on his knees, staring at the photograph of his daughter. Dip, ring, mop. Dip, ring, mop. That was supposed to be his life for 9 more days. Stay invisible. Stay patient. Let the legal machinery do its work. But some things can't be planned. Some moments choose you. Marcus picked up the photograph, kissed it once, and stood up. Ms. Shaw. Victoria stopped 10 feet from the elevator. She turned, eyebrow raised, already bored. What now? In 9 days, Marcus said, there's a shareholder meeting. Victoria waved her hand dismissively. So what? So I think you should know something. Marcus walked toward her, slowly, deliberately. The majority shareholder of this company is going to be there. The one who's been hiding behind a blind trust for 3 years. Victoria's expression flickered. Just for a moment. What do you know about the majority shareholder? I know everything about him. Marcus stopped 5 feet away. I know where he lives. I know what he cares about. I know exactly what he's planning to do at that meeting. Victoria studied him with new interest. And why would a janitor know anything about... Because. Marcus met her eyes. I am the majority shareholder. Victoria stared at him. Then she laughed. You. The word dripped with contempt. You own this company. 51%, acquired 3 years ago through the Brennan family trust. Marcus smiled. My wife's grandfather built this building. I made her a promise, and in 9 days, I'm going to keep it. Victoria's face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Confusion, doubt, fear, then rage. You're lying! Her voice went shrill. You're a crazy person. You're... She grabbed his face. Her fingers dug into his cheeks, nails biting into skin. Look at me. Victoria's eyes were wild. Look at me and tell me you're lying. Marcus looked at her. I'm not lying. And in 9 days, you're going to lose everything. Victoria Shaw pulled her hand back and slapped Marcus Brennan across the face so hard his ears rang. The sound echoed through the marble lobby like a thunderclap. Marcus staggered but didn't fall. His cheek burned. His ears were ringing. But he stayed on his feet. Victoria was breathing hard, hand still raised, eyes blazing with hatred. You. She grabbed his shirt. You think you can threaten me in my building? You think I'm afraid of some garbage man with delusions of grandeur? It's not a threat. Marcus's voice was calm despite the fire in his face. It's a fact. Security? Victoria screamed it. Security! I want this man arrested. I want him out of here now. 2 guards stepped forward. Young guys, nervous. Ma'am, one of them said, we saw what happened. You hit him. That's... I don't care what you saw. Victoria's composure was crumbling. Get him out. Get him out now. The guards looked at each other, then at Marcus, then back at Victoria. Ma'am, we're going to need to call the police. There's been an assault. I'll tell you what there's been. Victoria was screaming now. There's been a threat against this company. This man is delusional, dangerous. He needs to be... I have it all on video. The voice came from behind the concierge desk. Everyone turned. Hannah Cole, Victoria's assistant, stood with her phone raised. I recorded everything, from the moment you started yelling at him. Hannah's voice shook, but didn't break. The verbal abuse, the threats, the assault, all of it. Victoria went pale. Hannah, put that phone down. No. That's an order. I don't work for you anymore. Hannah walked toward Marcus. None of us do. She stopped next to him and turned to face the crowd. How many of you have been treated like this? How many of you have stayed silent because you needed the job, because you were scared? The lobby was dead quiet. Well, I'm done being scared. Hannah looked at Marcus. I don't know if you're telling the truth about being the majority shareholder, but I know what I saw, and I know what's right. She turned to Victoria. You should be ashamed of yourself. For the first time in her life, Victoria Shaw had nothing to say. The police arrived 12 minutes later. Marcus sat on a lobby bench, ice pack pressed to his cheek, watching as 2 officers interviewed Victoria near the elevator bank. Her lawyers had already shown up. 3 of them expensive suits, expensive watches, expensive lies. But they couldn't lie their way around 40 witnesses and a clear video recording. Edgar sat next to Marcus, a fresh cup of coffee in his hand. That was either the bravest thing I ever saw, Edgar said, or the dumbest. Probably both. You really own 51% of this company. I really do. Edgar whistled low. All this time, mopping floors with me, cleaning toilets, taking her garbage. Seemed like the best way to stay invisible. Marcus adjusted the ice pack. I needed to understand what was really going on here. Who could be trusted? Who couldn't? And now, Marcus watched Victoria arguing with the police, her lawyers hovering, her perfect composure completely shattered. Now the hard part starts. His phone buzzed. A text from the hospital. Lily's asking for you again. Doctor wants to discuss next steps. Marcus stood up. I have to go. Now, in the middle of all this, my daughter needs me. Marcus looked at Edgar. Everything else can wait. He started walking toward the lobby doors, past the executives who'd watched him be humiliated, past the security guards who'd done nothing, past Hannah who reached out and squeezed his arm as he went by. Thank you, she whispered. Marcus nodded and kept walking. Outside, the morning sun was warm on his face. His cheek still burned where Victoria had struck him. His knees still ached from kneeling on cold marble. But he was still standing. And in 9 days, everything was going to change. Marcus walked into room 412 of County General Hospital at exactly 8:47 in the morning. Lily was sitting up in bed, drawing with crayons an IV line snaking from her thin arm to the pole beside her. When she saw him, her face lit up like sunrise. Daddy. He crossed the room and wrapped her in his arms, careful not to disturb the tubes. Hey, brave girl, how are you feeling? Better. The medicine made my tummy stop hurting. She pulled back and looked at his face. Daddy, what happened to your cheek? Marcus touched the bruise, already purpling. Just an accident at work. It's nothing. Lily reached up with her small hand and touched it gently. Does it hurt? Not anymore. She studied him with those bright, serious eyes. Sarah's eyes. "You look sad, Daddy." "I'm not sad, sweetheart. I'm happy. I'm here with you." "Are you sure?" Marcus pulled up a chair next to her bed and sat down. "I'm sure. Now show me what you're drawing." Lily held up her paper. It was a crayon picture of a house with a garden and a sun and two stick figures holding hands. "That's us," she said, pointing. "That's you and me. And we're in our new house, the one you promised we'd get when I'm all better." Marcus looked at the picture, at the bright yellow sun, at the flowers, at the two figures, one tall and one small, hand in hand. "It's beautiful, sweetheart." "You really think so?" "I really do." Lily smiled and went back to drawing. Marcus watched her, memorizing every detail of her face. 9 days. In 9 days, he would walk into that shareholder meeting and take back everything Victoria Shaw had stolen. Not just from him, from Sarah's family, from Edgar, from every employee who'd been humiliated and ignored. But right now, none of that mattered. Right now, there was only this room, this bed, this little girl with crayons and hope and more courage than anyone he'd ever known. "Daddy?" "Yeah, sweetheart. Can you stay until I fall asleep?" Marcus took her small hand in his. "I'm not going anywhere." Lily fell asleep around 9:30, her small fingers still wrapped around Marcus's hand. He sat there for another hour, watching her breathe, counting the seconds between each rise and fall of her chest. The door opened quietly. Dr. Catherine Wells stepped in, clipboard in hand, reading glasses perched on her nose. She was in her 60s, gray hair, pulled back, the kind of doctor who'd seen everything and still managed to care. "Mr. Brennan." She kept her voice low. "Can we talk outside?" Marcus gently freed his hand from Lily's grip and followed the doctor into the hallway. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Somewhere down the corridor, a machine beeped steadily. "The test results came back," Dr. Wells said. She wasn't looking at her clipboard. She was looking at him. "The experimental treatment isn't working the way we hoped." Marcus felt the floor shift beneath his feet. "What does that mean?" "It means we need to move to the next phase, the surgery we discussed." "The one that cost $2 million. "Yes." Dr. Wells took off her glasses and rubbed her eyes. "I've been doing this for 35 years, Marcus. I've seen a lot of parents in your situation. Most of them don't have options, but you do. The surgery has a 73% success rate. If we can get Lily on the table within the next 30 days, she has a real chance." 30 days. Her condition is progressing faster than we anticipated. The window is closing. Marcus leaned against the wall. His cheek throbbed where Victoria had struck him. His knees still ached from the cold marble. And now this. "The money in my trust," he said slowly. "It's locked until the shareholder meeting, 9 days from now. Can you access it sooner? Not without revealing who I am. Not without losing everything I've been working toward." Dr. Wells put her hand on his arm. "Marcus, I don't know what you've been working toward, but I know your daughter. I've known her for 2 years. She's the bravest little girl I've ever met." She paused. "Whatever you're planning, whatever you think is important, ask yourself one question. Is it worth her life?" Marcus closed his eyes. Sarah's voice echoed in his memory. The hospice room. The beeping machines. Her hand in his growing colder by the minute. "Promise me, Marcus. Promise me you'll get it back. For Lily. For our family." He'd made 2 promises that night. Take care of Lily. Get the company back. Now those promises were colliding. "I need to think," he said. "Don't think too long." Dr. Wells squeezed his arm. "Time isn't on our side." She walked away, leaving Marcus alone in the fluorescent hallway with the weight of impossible choices pressing down on his shoulders. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Hannah Cole. We need to talk. It's about Victoria. Meet me at the coffee shop on 5th and Main. 2 p.m. Marcus stared at the message for a long moment. Then he walked back into Lily's room, kissed her forehead, and whispered, "I'll be back soon, brave girl. Daddy has some things to take care of." The coffee shop was nearly empty when Marcus arrived. Hannah was already there, sitting in a back corner booth, laptop open, looking like she hadn't slept in days. She stood when she saw him. "Mr. Brennan, thank you for coming." "Call me Marcus." He slid into the booth across from her. "What's this about?" Hannah glanced around, making sure no one was within earshot. "I've worked for Victoria Shaw for 3 years. I've seen things, heard things, things I should have reported a long time ago." "Why didn't you?" "Because I was scared." Hannah's voice cracked. "Because I needed the job. Because I told myself it wasn't my problem." She turned the laptop to face him. "But this morning, watching what she did to you, something broke inside me. I can't stay silent anymore." On the screen was a folder. Dozens of files, emails, audio recordings, financial documents. "What is this?" "Evidence." Hannah scrolled through the files. "Victoria has been embezzling money from the company for years. Millions of dollars funneled into offshore accounts. She's also been covering up safety violations. 3 years ago, a maintenance worker fell from the 20th floor. Faulty equipment. Victoria refused to pay for proper safety gear." Marcus felt his stomach tighten. "What happened to the worker?" "He died. Victoria paid off the family, buried the reports, made it look like an accident caused by employee negligence." Jesus. That's not all. Hannah pulled up another file. "She's been systematically targeting employees who complain, firing them, blacklisting them in the industry. There's a woman named Margaret Chen who reported harassment. Victoria destroyed her career. She's been unemployed for 2 years. Can't even get an interview." Marcus looked at the files. Years of cruelty documented in cold digital detail. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because you said you own 51% of the company." Hannah met his eyes. "I don't know if that's true, but if it is, you're the only person who can stop her. And if it's not true, then I'm risking everything for nothing." Hannah's hands were shaking. "But I'd rather risk everything than keep being part of this." Marcus studied her face. Young, scared. But underneath the fear, something else. Something that looked like the first spark of courage. "It's true," he said. "I own the majority stake. I've been waiting for the shareholder meeting to make my move." Hannah exhaled slowly. "Then we have 9 days to build a case strong enough to take her down. I told you, I'm done being silent." Hannah closed the laptop. "Whatever you need, I'm in." Marcus thought about Dr. Wells. About the 30-day window. About the $2 million locked in a trust he couldn't touch. "There's something you should know," he said. "My daughter is dying. She needs surgery. The money I have tied up in this company, it's not just about revenge or promises. It's about saving her life." Hannah was quiet for a moment. "Then we better not fail." Edgar was waiting for Marcus in the basement of Grandview Tower at 6 the next morning. The old man had a cardboard box at his feet stuffed with notebooks and folders. 40 years. Edgar said, lifting the box onto a workbench. 40 years I've been keeping records. Every complaint, every incident, every time they swept something under the rug. Marcus opened the first notebook. The handwriting was careful, methodical. Dates, names, descriptions. 1987, James Morrison Bellhop. Called the N-word by Supervisor Robert Haynes. Complaint filed. No action taken. 1992, Maria Gonzalez housekeeper. Passed over for promotion despite 15 years of service. Position given to white employee with 2 years experience. 1995, David Kim front desk. Fired for attitude problems after reporting that guests were being charged different rates based on race. Page after page, decade after decade. A history of small cruelties and systemic injustice, all carefully documented by a man everyone had dismissed as just another janitor. "Why did you keep all this?" Marcus asked. "Because someone had to." Edgar pulled out another notebook. "Because I watched good people get destroyed by this place. And I kept thinking someday someone's gonna care. Someone's gonna listen." He looked at Marcus with eyes that had seen too much. "Are you that someone?" Marcus thought about Sarah's grandfather, who'd built this company in a garage with nothing but dreams and determination. He thought about what the company had become, what it had been allowed to become. "Yeah," he said, "I think I am." "Good." Edgar pulled out a tape recorder. "Because I've also got audio. Meetings where they discussed how to handle problem employees. Conversations about which complaints to bury. And this." He pressed play. Victoria's voice filled the basement. "I don't care if he has a family. I don't care if he's worked here for 20 years. He filed a complaint against me. That means he's gone. Find a reason. Make something up. I want him out by Friday." Marcus listened to the recording, the casual cruelty, the absolute certainty that she would never face consequences. When was this? 6 months ago. She was talking about a maintenance supervisor named William Torres. Good man, 3 kids, worked here for 22 years. What happened to him? Fired for performance issues, lost his pension. Last I heard he was working night shifts at a warehouse across town. Marcus felt something cold settle in his chest. "Can you get me in touch with him?" "I can get you in touch with a lot of people." Edgar started pulling out more boxes. People Victoria thought she'd silenced forever. People who've been waiting for a chance to tell their stories. "How many?" Edgar smiled grimly. "Enough to fill a courtroom." The next 3 days were a blur of meetings and phone calls and documents. Hannah worked from her apartment sorting through financial records, building a timeline of Victoria's embezzlement. She'd already found over $4 million in suspicious transfers. Edgar contacted former employees one by one. William Torres, Margaret Chen, a security guard named Robert Jackson, who'd been fired for refusing to racially profile guests. A housekeeper named Gloria Mendez, who'd been denied workers' compensation after an injury. They were scared at first. Years of silence had taught them that speaking up only led to more pain. But one by one, they agreed to talk. "I've been waiting for this," William Torres said when Marcus met him at a diner on the outskirts of town. 3 years I've been waiting for someone to care." "Why didn't you go to the authorities? You think I didn't try?" William laughed bitterly. "Victoria's lawyers are the best money can buy. Every time I tried to file a complaint, it disappeared. Every time I talked to a reporter, they got a call from Grandview's legal team. She's untouchable." "Not anymore." William studied Marcus's face. "You really think you can take her down?" "I know I can, but I need your help. I need you to tell your story. On camera, on the record." William was quiet for a long moment. His hands, scarred from years of physical labor, wrapped around his coffee cup. "My wife left me after I lost the job," he said finally. "Couldn't handle the stress. My kids, they don't understand why Daddy can't find work. Why we had to move to a smaller apartment. Why Christmas was so thin last year." He looked up at Marcus. "If I do this, if I stand up and tell the truth, what happens to them if it doesn't work? What happens if Victoria comes after my family? I won't let that happen. How can you promise that?" Marcus thought about Lily, about the surgery she needed, about the 30-day window that was shrinking every hour. "Because I know what it's like to have everything taken from you. And I know what it's like to have a child who's counting on you." He leaned forward. "I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to trust that some things are worth fighting for." William stared at him for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Okay, I'll do it." Victoria Shaw was not idle. By the 4th day after the confrontation, she'd hired a crisis management team. By the 5th day, she'd filed a police report claiming that Marcus had threatened her. "The man is clearly disturbed. she told reporters outside the Grandview Tower. He made bizarre claims about owning the company. When I tried to call security, he became aggressive. I had no choice but to defend myself. The story spread quickly. Marcus Brennan, delusional janitor, attacks beloved CEO. The narrative was clean and simple, easy to believe. Hannah called Marcus that night, panic in her voice. "Have you seen the news? She's spinning everything, making you look crazy." I expected this. Expected it. Marcus people are believing her. There's already a petition online calling for your arrest. Marcus was sitting in Lily's hospital room watching his daughter sleep. The machines beeped steadily. The IV dripped. Life measured in small, precious increments. "Let her spin," he said. "The truth has a way of coming out." But what if it doesn't? What if she buries this like she's buried everything else? She won't. How can you be so sure? Marcus looked at the photograph on Lily's bedside table. The one Victoria had thrown at his face. The one he'd picked up off that cold marble floor. Because this time she's not fighting a janitor. She's fighting a father with nothing left to lose. The sixth day brought an unexpected visitor. Marcus was in Edgar's basement office reviewing documents when the service elevator opened. A man stepped out, late 60s, expensive suit, silver hair. Marcus recognized him immediately from the company portraits that hung in the executive hallway. Charles Whitmore, founding board member, Victoria's mentor and chief supporter. "Mr. Brennan." Charles's voice was smooth as polished wood. "May I have a word?" Edgar stepped forward protectively, but Marcus held up his hand. "It's okay, Ed. Give us a minute." Edgar hesitated, then retreated to the far corner of the room, close enough to hear, close enough to help, if needed. Charles looked around the basement with undisguised disdain. "So this is where you've been hiding, planning your little revolution among the mops and buckets." "Something like that." "I have to admit I underestimated you." Charles pulled out a chair and sat down, crossing his legs with the easy confidence of a man who'd never been denied anything in his life. "When Victoria told me about your claims, I assumed you were simply mentally ill. A sad man with delusions of grandeur. And now I've had my lawyers look into the Brennan family trust." Charles smiled thinly. "Imagine my surprise when they confirmed that yes, you do indeed own 51% of our company. Very clever buying up shares during the crash. Very patient. I learned patience from my wife." "Ah, yes, Sarah Whitmore. I remember her. Lovely woman. Such a tragedy what happened." Marcus felt his jaw tighten at the casual mention of Sarah's name. "What do you want, Charles?" "I want to make you an offer." Charles leaned forward. "Sell us your shares. I'm prepared to offer you 3 times their current market value. That's over $50 million. More than enough to take care of your daughter's medical needs and live very comfortably for the rest of your life. And in exchange, you walk away, quietly, no shareholder meeting, no accusations, no messy public confrontations." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "Did Victoria send you?" "Victoria doesn't know I'm here." Charles's smile never wavered. "This is me trying to prevent unnecessary unpleasantness for everyone involved. Including Victoria. Including all of us." Charles stood and brushed off his jacket. "Think about it, Marcus. You have a sick daughter who needs expensive treatment. You have no resources, no allies, no power. Victoria has an army of lawyers, a compliant board, and media contacts who will print whatever she tells them to print." He walked toward the elevator. "You might win the shareholder vote. But even if you do, you really think Victoria will just accept defeat? She'll fight you in court for years, decades. Your daughter will be grown before you see a penny." He pressed the elevator button. "Or you can take my offer. Walk away rich. Take care of your little girl. Let the grown-ups handle the company." The elevator doors opened. "You have 24 hours. Marcus watched him step into the elevator. Just before the doors closed, he spoke. "Charles." The older man looked back. Tell Victoria something for me. Marcus's voice was calm, steady, final. Tell her I'm not for sale. Tell her I never was. And tell her that in 3 days I'm coming for everything she stole. Charles's smile flickered for just a moment. Then the doors closed, and he was gone. That night, Marcus sat by Lily's bed holding her hand, watching the monitors track her vital signs. She'd been weaker today, slept more, ate less. The 30-day window was now a 23-day window. Daddy? Her voice was small, thin as paper. I'm here, sweetheart. I had a dream. Yeah, what was it about? Lily's eyes fluttered open, those bright, beautiful eyes that looked just like Sarah's. I dreamed about Mommy. She was in a garden with lots of flowers. She said to tell you something. Marcus's throat tightened. What did she say? She said you're almost there. She said don't give up. Marcus blinked back tears. Did she say anything else? Lily nodded, her eyes already closing again. She said she's proud of you, Daddy. She said she's so proud. Marcus pressed his daughter's hand to his cheek. Thank you, brave girl. Thank you for telling me. Lily was asleep before he finished speaking. Marcus sat there for a long time in the quiet of the hospital room, with the machines beeping and the monitors glowing, and his daughter's small hand in his. 3 days until the shareholder meeting. 23 days until the window closed. A sick little girl who believed in angels and flowers and messages from mothers who'd gone too soon. And somewhere across town, a woman who thought she was untouchable, preparing for a war she didn't know she'd already lost. Marcus closed his eyes. I'm almost there, Sarah, he whispered. Just hold on, I'm almost there. The next morning, Marcus received a text from Hannah. Emergency. Meet at Edgar's office. Now. He arrived to find both of them waiting, faces grim. What happened? Hannah held up a newspaper. The headline screamed across the front page. Delusional janitor claims to own billion-dollar company, sources say mental health history. She's escalating, Edgar said. Someone leaked your wife's medical records. They're saying Sarah had depression. They're implying you inherited some kind of mental illness. Marcus grabbed the newspaper. The article was full of anonymous sources and vague insinuations. Nothing concrete, but the damage was done. How did they get Sarah's medical records? Victoria has contacts everywhere. Hannah's voice was shaking. Hospitals, insurance companies, government agencies. She's been building this network for years. What else? Edgar handed him a folder. Someone broke into my apartment last night, took some of my notebooks, the ones with the earliest records. Did they get everything? No. I keep copies in a safe deposit box, but they got enough to know what we have. Marcus looked at the newspaper, at the folder, at the faces of his two allies, scared but determined. She's trying to discredit us before the meeting, make us look crazy, make the evidence look fabricated. It's working. Hannah pulled up her phone. Look at social media. Everyone's talking about the crazy janitor. No one's talking about what Victoria did. Marcus thought about Charles Whitmore's offer. $50 million. Walk away. Take care of Lily. For just a moment, the temptation was real. Then he remembered the marble floor, the cold seeping through his knees. Victoria's voice dripping with contempt. Say you're worthless. He remembered kneeling, saying the words, watching his daughter's photograph flutter to the ground. She wants us to give up, Marcus said slowly. She wants us to think we can't win. Can we? Hannah asked. Can we really beat her? Marcus looked at the newspaper one more time. Then he crumpled it into a ball and threw it in the trash. 2 days, he said. We have 2 days to prepare. I need every witness, every document, every piece of evidence we have organized and ready. What's the plan? Edgar asked. We're going to do what she never expected. Marcus's voice was hard as stone. We're going to tell the truth, all of it, in front of everyone. And if that's not enough... Marcus thought about Lily, about Sarah, about every person Victoria had crushed beneath her heel. It has to be enough. He picked up his phone and dialed. Dr. Wells, it's Marcus Brennan. I need to ask you something. If we could get the money in time, how soon could you schedule Lily's surgery? He listened to her answer. 10 days after payment. Okay, that's what I needed to know. He hung up and looked at Edgar and Hannah. The shareholder meeting is in 2 days. If we win, I get access to my trust immediately. That gives us exactly enough time to get Lily into surgery before the window closes. And if we lose? Hannah asked. Marcus didn't answer. He didn't have to. The conference room emptied slowly, shareholders and board members filing out in stunned silence. Some avoided Marcus's eyes. Others nodded at him with something like respect. A few lingered near Victoria, who sat frozen in her chair staring at the table like she could will reality to reverse itself. Charles Whitmore was the first of her allies to break ranks. He gathered his papers, stood, and walked toward the door without looking back. When Victoria called his name, he didn't even slow down. Charles, we need to talk about this. There has to be a way to... The door closed behind him with a soft click that sounded like a gunshot. Hannah appeared at Marcus's side, tablet clutched to her chest. The legal team is asking what you want to do next. They say we need to move fast, before Victoria's lawyers can file injunctions. Marcus watched Victoria across the room. She was still sitting there alone now, her perfectly manicured fingers gripping the edge of the table. For a moment, just a moment, she looked almost human. Almost fragile. Then her eyes met his, and the mask slammed back into place. "This isn't over," she said, her voice cutting across the empty room. "You think you've won something here? You haven't won anything. I will bury you in lawsuits. I will drag this out for years, decades. Your daughter will be dead before you see a penny of that money." Edgar stepped forward, his weathered face dark with anger. "You don't get to talk about his daughter. Not after what you've done." "And who are you?" Victoria laughed, but there was a crack in it now. "The janitor's janitor. You think anyone cares what you have to say?" "Actually," Marcus said quietly, "they do." He nodded at Hannah, who pulled up something on her tablet and connected it to the room's main screen. "What is this?" Victoria's voice wavered. "This is every piece of evidence we've collected over the past week. Financial records showing $4.7 million embezzled from company accounts. Audio recordings of you ordering employees to be fired for filing complaints. Documentation of the safety violations that led to Michael Torres's death. Statements from 17 former employees describing years of harassment and discrimination. The screen filled with documents, recordings, photographs. A timeline of cruelty stretching back nearly a decade. And this," Marcus continued, "is being transmitted live to every major news outlet in the city, right now, as we speak." Victoria's face went white. "You can't do that. That's confidential company information. That's evidence of criminal activity." Marcus's voice was calm, almost gentle. "And in about 30 minutes, it's going to be on every television screen in America." Victoria stood so fast her chair fell over behind her. "I'll sue you. I'll sue everyone in this room. You'll what?" Marcus walked toward her slowly. "Hire more lawyers, file more motions, threaten more people." He stopped 3 feet away from her. "That's all you know how to do, isn't it? Threaten, intimidate, destroy. You've been doing it for so long you've forgotten there's another way to live." "You don't know anything about me." "I know everything about you." Marcus's voice dropped. "I know you inherited this position from your father. I know you've never built anything in your life. I know you've spent the last 10 years tearing down everything my wife's grandfather created, everything that made this company worth saving." Victoria's mask cracked again just for a second. "Your wife, Sarah." She laughed bitterly. "She was weak, just like you, just like your pathetic little daughter." Marcus felt something shift in his chest. Not anger. Something colder, something final. "My daughter," he said slowly, "is the bravest person I've ever known. She's been fighting for her life for 3 years. She's endured things you can't even imagine, and she's still fighting, still hoping, still believing that the world can be good." He leaned closer. "Can you say the same? When was the last time you believed in anything, Victoria? When was the last time you hoped for something that wasn't about money or power?" Victoria's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. "That's what I thought." Marcus turned and walked toward the door. "Where are you going?" Victoria's voice cracked. "We're not done here." "Yes, we are." Marcus paused at the doorway. "The board has voted. Your shares have been suspended. Your access to company assets is frozen pending investigation. And in about 20 minutes, the police are going to arrive with a warrant for your arrest." "Arrest on what charges?" "Assault, embezzlement, obstruction of justice, and accessory to wrongful death in the case of Michael Torres." Marcus looked back at her one last time. "You should call your lawyers, Victoria. You're going to need them." The police arrived at 10:47. Marcus stood in the hallway outside the conference room watching through the glass as 2 uniformed officers approached Victoria Shaw. She was still sitting at the table phone pressed to her ear, speaking rapidly to what was presumably her legal team. When the officers reached her, she looked up with an expression Marcus had never seen on her face before. Fear. Raw, undiluted fear. "Victoria Shaw." The first officer's voice was professional, but firm. "You're under arrest for assault, embezzlement, and obstruction of justice. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." Victoria stood slowly, her movements mechanical, all the grace drained from her body. "This is a mistake. I'm the CEO of this company. I have rights." "Ma'am, please turn around and place your hands behind your back." "Do you know who I am? Do you have any idea who my family is?" "Ma'am, hands behind your back. Now." For a moment, Marcus thought Victoria might resist. Her whole body tensed, coiled like a spring. But then something broke inside her. You could see it in the way her shoulders slumped, the way her chin dropped. She turned around and placed her hands behind her back. The handcuffs clicked closed. Edgar appeared at Marcus's side, watching through the glass. 40 years, the old man said quietly. 40 years I've been waiting for something like this. Was it worth it? Edgar was silent for a long moment. Ask me again when your little girl is out of surgery. The officers led Victoria toward the elevator. As she passed the glass wall, her eyes found Marcus. There was hatred there, burning and absolute. But underneath it, something else. Recognition. She finally understood who she'd been fighting. Not a janitor, not a delusional nobody, but a father who would burn the world down to save his daughter. The elevator doors closed and Victoria Shaw disappeared from the 47th floor for the last time. The next 48 hours were chaos. News vans surrounded Grandview Tower. Reporters shouted questions at anyone who entered or left. Social media exploded with the story: the janitor who turned out to be a majority shareholder, the CEO who'd built an empire on cruelty, the witnesses who'd finally found the courage to speak. Marcus did one interview, just one. A local reporter named Sandra Chen, who'd been covering corporate scandals for 20 years. She sat across from him in a borrowed conference room, her cameraman setting up in the corner. "Mr. Brennan, the whole country wants to know, why did you do it this way? Why spend 3 years working as a janitor when you owned the company?" Marcus thought about the question for a long moment. "Because I needed to see what was really happening. Not the sanitized reports that get sent to shareholders. Not the carefully managed public image. The truth. And the only way to see the truth was to become invisible." "And what did you see?" "I saw people being treated like they didn't matter. Employees who gave everything to this company and got nothing in return. Guests who were judged by the color of their skin or the size of their wallet. Good people who were crushed because they dared to speak up. Marcus leaned forward. I also saw something else. I saw people like Edgar Price, who kept records for 40 years because he believed that someday, somehow, the truth would matter. I saw Hannah Cole, who risked her career to do the right thing. I saw William Torres and Margaret Chen and all the others who came forward even though they were scared, even though they had everything to lose. What do you want people to take away from this story? That everyone matters. Everyone. The janitor mopping floors at 4 in the morning, the housekeeper cleaning rooms, the security guard working the night shift. These aren't invisible people. They're not the help. They're human beings with families and dreams and dignity. He paused. And sometimes when the people at the top forget that it's the people at the bottom who have to remind them. The interview aired that night. By morning, it had been viewed over 10 million times. On the third day after the shareholder meeting, Marcus sat in Dr. Wells's office signing papers. The surgery is scheduled for next Tuesday, Dr. Wells said. That gives us just enough time to run the final pre-op tests and make sure Lily is strong enough for the procedure. And the success rate? 73%, same as we discussed. Dr. Wells took off her glasses and looked at him directly. Marcus, I've been doing this for 35 years. I've seen a lot of sick children. Lily is one of the strongest I've ever met. If anyone can beat this, she can. Marcus felt something loosen in his chest. A knot that had been there for 3 years slowly tightening with every test result, every bad night, every moment of fear. Can I see her? Of course, she's been asking for you. Lily was sitting up in bed when Marcus walked in. She had crayons spread across her blanket, working on another drawing. Daddy? Her face lit up. Look what I made. She held up the paper. It was a drawing of 3 figures, a tall one, a medium one, and a small one, standing in front of a house with a yellow sun overhead. That's us, Lily explained. That's you, and that's Mommy watching from heaven, and that's me, and we're in our new house, the one you promised. Marcus sat on the edge of her bed and pulled her into a gentle hug. It's beautiful, sweetheart. The nurse said I'm having surgery soon. She said it's going to make me all better. That's right. Marcus brushed a strand of hair from her face. The doctors are going to fix what's wrong inside you. And then we're going to go home. Together. Lily's eyes grew serious. Daddy, are you scared? A little bit. Are you? Lily thought about it. Not really. You know why. Why? Because Mommy told me in my dream that everything's going to be okay. She said the angels are watching over us. Lily smiled. And I believe her. Marcus held his daughter tighter, blinking back tears. I believe her too, brave girl. I believe her too. The legal aftermath unfolded over the following weeks. Victoria Shaw was denied bail, deemed a flight risk given her family's international connections. Her lawyers filed motion after motion, but the evidence was overwhelming. The embezzlement charges alone carried a potential sentence of 15 years. Charles Whitmore and 2 other board members resigned before they could be formally removed. The founding families who had supported Victoria for years suddenly discovered that they'd had concerns about her leadership all along. Rats fleeing a sinking ship. But it was the civil suits that really brought the truth to light. 17 former employees came forward with claims against Victoria personally and the company generally. Wrongful termination, harassment, discrimination, unsafe working conditions. The Torres family filed a wrongful death suit that made national headlines. Marcus met with each plaintiff personally, not through lawyers, face to face. William Torres sat across from him in a small coffee shop, the same one where they'd first met. The lawyers say we could settle, William said. Take the money and walk away. Is that what you want? I want whatever brings you peace. Whatever helps your family. William was quiet for a long moment. You know what I want? I want people to know what happened, not just to me, To all of us. I want it on the record. Official. So it can never be buried again. Then we go to trial. It could take years. I'm not going anywhere. William looked at him with something like wonder. 3 years you worked as a janitor. 3 years you could have been living like a king. Why? Marcus thought about Sarah. About the promise he'd made. About the look on Lily's face when she showed him her drawings. Because some things are worth more than money. The settlement conference took place on a Tuesday afternoon 3 weeks after Victoria's arrest. Her lawyers had finally convinced her to negotiate. The evidence was too strong, the witnesses too credible. Fighting in court would only drag out her humiliation and increase her eventual sentence. Marcus sat on one side of the table with his legal team. Victoria sat on the other side, looking smaller than he remembered. The orange jumpsuit didn't help. My client is prepared to plead guilty to reduced charges, Victoria's lead attorney began. In exchange, we're asking for— I'm not interested in what you're asking for, Marcus interrupted. I'm interested in what's right. The attorney blinked. Mr. Brennan, with all due respect, that's not how negotiations work. Then let me explain how this negotiation is going to work. Marcus opened a folder and slid it across the table. Your client is going to plead guilty to all charges. She's going to accept whatever sentence the judge determines is appropriate, and she's going to sign over her remaining shares in Grandview Corporation to a trust fund that will compensate her victims. Victoria's face twisted with rage. You can't be serious. Those shares are worth— Those shares were built on the suffering of people you treated like garbage. Marcus's voice was quiet but final. Now they're going to help those people rebuild their lives. I'll fight this. I'll take it to trial. You'll lose. Marcus met her eyes. You know you'll lose. Your lawyers know it. Everyone in this room knows it. The only question is how much more damage you want to do to yourself before you accept reality. Victoria stared at him. The hatred was still there, but it was weaker now, diluted by exhaustion and something that might have been the first stirrings of acceptance. Why are you doing this? She asked. You won. You got your company back. You got your money. Your daughter is going to get her surgery. Why do you care about punishing me? This isn't about punishing you. Marcus leaned back in his chair. This is about making sure what happened to William Torres never happens to anyone else. This is about making sure Margaret Chen can work in this industry again. This is about making sure the next person you would have destroyed has a chance at a decent life. He paused. And honestly, part of me hopes that someday, maybe years from now, you'll understand what you did. Really understand it. Not because you got caught, but because you finally developed the capacity for empathy you never had. Victoria laughed bitterly. You think I'm capable of that? I think everyone is capable of change. Marcus stood. The question is whether they want to. He walked toward the door. My lawyers will give you until Friday to accept the terms. After that, we go to trial, and I promise you, Victoria, by the time we're done, there won't be a person in America who doesn't know exactly what you did and exactly who you are. He paused at the door. Think about it. Victoria accepted the terms on Thursday. She pleaded guilty to all charges at her sentencing hearing the following month. The judge gave her 12 years, with possibility of parole after 8. As she was led away in handcuffs, she looked back at Marcus one final time. He nodded at her. Just once. She didn't nod back. But something in her eyes shifted. Something that might have been the first crack in a wall that had taken a lifetime to build. The morning of Lily's surgery, Marcus sat beside her bed holding her hand. She was already drowsy from the pre-op medication, but she fought to keep her eyes open. Daddy. I'm here, sweetheart. Will you be here when I wake up? I'll be right here. I promise. And then we can go to our new house. Yes, baby. Then we can go home. Lily smiled, her eyes fluttering closed. Mommy says she's proud of you, Daddy. She says you kept your promise. Marcus brought her small hand to his lips and kissed it. "I love you, brave girl." "I love you too, Daddy." The orderlies came to wheel her into surgery. Marcus walked beside the gurney as far as they would let him, then stood at the double doors, watching until she disappeared from sight. Edgar was waiting for him in the family lounge. "How are you holding up?" "I don't know." Marcus sank into a chair. "I've been fighting for so long, fighting to stay invisible, fighting to gather evidence, fighting Victoria. And now all I can do is sit here and wait." "That's the hardest part." Edgar sat beside him. "The waiting, the not knowing. How did you do it 40 years of waiting for justice? How did you not give up?" Edgar was quiet for a long moment. "I almost did. Many times. There were nights I'd lie awake thinking, what's the point? Nobody cares. Nothing's ever going to change." He looked at Marcus. "But then I'd go to work the next morning and I'd see some young kid getting treated like dirt. And I'd think, if I don't write this down, who will? If I don't remember, who will?" He pulled out his worn notebook, the same one he'd been keeping for decades. "This isn't just evidence, Marcus. It's testimony. It's proof that we were here, that we mattered, that what happened to us was real and wrong and worth remembering." Marcus took the notebook, gently running his fingers over the worn cover. "What are you going to do with it now that it's over?" "I thought I might donate it, to a museum maybe, or a university, somewhere people can study it, learn from it." Edgar smiled. 40 years of history in that little book. Seems a shame to let it gather dust. "It's more than history. It's a map of survival." "That it is." Edgar took the notebook back and tucked it into his jacket. "That it is." The surgery took 7 hours. 7 hours of sitting in that lounge, drinking bad coffee, watching the clock on the wall tick away, seconds that felt like years. Hannah came by around noon with sandwiches Marcus couldn't eat. William Torres stopped in to offer support, his own children waiting in the car outside. At 4:17 in the afternoon, the same time Marcus had been waking up every day for 3 years, Dr. Wells walked through the door. Marcus was on his feet before she'd taken 2 steps. "The surgery was successful," Dr. Wells said. "We got everything. The tissue looks clean. Barring any complications, Lily should make a full recovery." Marcus felt his knees buckle. Edgar caught him, held him up. "She's okay. She's more than okay." Dr. Wells smiled, and for the first time since they'd met, she looked genuinely happy. "She's going to be fine, Marcus. Your daughter is going to be fine." Marcus wept. He stood there in the middle of the family lounge, surrounded by strangers and friends, and the ghosts of everyone he'd lost, and he wept like a child. 3 years of fear and hope and desperate fighting poured out of him in great heaving sobs. Edgar held him through it. Didn't say a word, just held him. When the tears finally stopped, Marcus wiped his face and looked at Dr. Wells. "When can I see her?" "She's in recovery now. Should be waking up in about an hour. I'll send someone to get you." "Thank you." Marcus's voice was raw. "Thank you for everything. Thank Lily. She did all the hard work." Dr. Wells squeezed his shoulder. "Go get some air. Clear your head. I'll come find you when she's ready." Marcus walked outside. The sun was setting over the city, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. He stood on the hospital steps, breathing in the cool evening air, and for the first time in 3 years, he let himself believe that everything was going to be okay. His phone buzzed. A text from Hannah. "Board meeting tomorrow. They want to discuss the company's future direction. They want your input." Marcus smiled. 3 months ago, he'd been invisible. A janitor mopping floors in the dark. A father watching his daughter waste away. A widower clinging to a promise he wasn't sure he could keep. Now, he was the majority shareholder of a billion-dollar company. His daughter was going to live, and the woman who tried to destroy him was sitting in a prison cell, finally facing the consequences of a lifetime of cruelty. But as Marcus stood there watching the sunset, he realized something. None of that was what mattered. What mattered was the people. Edgar and his 40 years of quiet courage. Hannah and her decision to speak up. William and Margaret and all the others who'd found the strength to tell their stories. What mattered was Lily fighting through surgery with the same brave spirit she'd shown every day of her illness. What mattered was Sarah watching from wherever she was, proud of the promise he'd kept. The automatic doors opened behind him. A nurse in blue scrubs appeared. "Mr. Brennan, your daughter is awake. She's asking for you." Marcus turned and walked back inside. Room 412 was quiet except for the soft beeping of monitors. Lily lay in the bed, smaller than ever against the white sheets, but her eyes were open. Alive. Bright with something that looked like joy. "Daddy?" Marcus crossed the room in 3 steps and took her hand. "Hey, brave girl, how do you feel?" "Tired, but good." Lily smiled weakly. "The doctor said I'm going to be okay." "That's right, you're going to be just fine. Does that mean we can go home now, to our new house?" Marcus looked at his daughter, at her pale face, and her thin arms, and her beautiful, hopeful eyes. "Yes, sweetheart. We can go home." Lily's smile grew wider. "Daddy." "Yeah. I had another dream while I was sleeping. Mommy was there again." "What did she say this time?" Lily reached up and touched his face with her small hand. "She said thank you. She said thank you for keeping your promises." Marcus closed his eyes and let the tears come. "I love you, Lily." "I love you too, Daddy." Outside the window, the last light of sunset faded into darkness. But in room 412, a different kind of light was just beginning to grow. The weeks that followed Lily's surgery were the quietest Marcus had known in years. No more 4 a.m. wake-ups. No more hospital vigils filled with dread. No more counting the hours until bad news arrived. Instead, there was only the slow, miraculous work of healing. Lily grew stronger every day. First, she could sit up without help. Then she could walk to the bathroom on her own. Then she was racing the nurses down the hallway, laughing as they pretended to chase her. "She's remarkable," Dr. Wells told Marcus during one of their final consultations. "Most patients her age need months of physical therapy. Lily's already ahead of schedule. She's always been stubborn. She gets that from someone, I imagine." Marcus smiled. Her mother. On the day of Lily's discharge, Marcus arrived at the hospital with a wheelchair he knew she wouldn't use. Sure enough, when he walked into room 412, she was already dressed and waiting by the window, a small backpack on her shoulders. "Daddy, you're late." "I'm 5 minutes early." "That's late for going home." Lily bounced on her heels. "Can we go now? Can we?" Marcus looked around the room that had been her world for so long. The walls covered with her drawings, the window where she'd watched the seasons change, the chair where he'd spent countless nights holding her hand, praying for one more day. "Yeah, sweetheart, we can go." They walked out together, hand in hand. Nurses lined the hallway, clapping and cheering. Lily waved at each one like a princess in a parade. "Bye, Maria. Bye, Janet. Bye, Dr. Tom." At the elevator, Dr. Wells was waiting. "I hear someone is going home today." Lily nodded vigorously. "Daddy says we have a new house, with a garden, and maybe a dog." "Maybe a dog," Marcus clarified. "We'll see." Dr. Wells knelt down to Lily's level. "You know what, Lily? In all my years of being a doctor, I've never met anyone as brave as you. Really, really, you're going to do amazing things with your life. I just know it." Lily threw her arms around Dr. Wells's neck. "Thank you for making me better." "You're welcome, sweetheart. Now go live your life." The elevator doors opened. Marcus and Lily stepped inside. As the doors closed, Marcus caught one last glimpse of Dr. Wells wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. The drive to their new home took 45 minutes. Lily spent most of it with her face pressed against the window, drinking in a world she'd only seen through hospital glass for 3 years. Daddy, look. A playground. I see it. Can we go there? Can we go there tomorrow? We can go there whenever you want. And the park? And the ice cream shop? And... Lily. Marcus laughed. We have time for all of it. We have all the time in the world. Lily settled back into her seat, but the wonder never left her eyes. The house was everything Marcus had promised. 2 stories, white siding, blue shutters, a front porch with a swing, a backyard with an old oak tree perfect for climbing. Nothing fancy, nothing extravagant, just a home. Lily stood on the front lawn staring up at it like it was a castle. This is ours. This is ours. The whole thing. The whole thing. She ran up the porch steps, threw open the front door, and disappeared inside. Marcus followed more slowly, savoring every moment. He found her in what would be her bedroom. It was painted pale yellow, her favorite color. The window looked out over the backyard. A brand new bed with a purple comforter sat against one wall. Lily stood in the middle of the room, turning in slow circles. Daddy. Yeah. It's perfect. That night, Marcus tucked Lily into bed for the first time in 3 years without the sound of monitors beeping in the background. No IV poles, no nurses doing rounds, just a father, a daughter, and the peaceful silence of home. Daddy. Yeah, sweetheart. I'm scared. Marcus sat on the edge of her bed. What are you scared of? What if I get sick again? What if I have to go back to the hospital? Marcus took her hand, the same way he'd done 1,000 times before. You know what Dr. Wells said? She said you're all better now. She said the bad stuff is gone, and it's not coming back. But what if she's wrong? Then we'll fight it again, together, just like we did before. Lily was quiet for a moment. Daddy, were you scared when I was sick? Marcus thought about lying. Thought about protecting her from the weight of his fear. But she'd been through too much for lies. She deserved the truth. I was terrified. Every single day. I was so scared of losing you that sometimes I couldn't breathe. But you never showed it. Because you needed me to be strong. And because being scared doesn't mean you give up. It just means you have something worth fighting for. Lily squeezed his hand. I'm glad you're my daddy. I'm glad you're my daughter. He kissed her forehead and stood to leave. Daddy. Yeah? Can you leave the hall light on? Always. The first board meeting of the new era took place 3 weeks after Lily came home. Marcus walked into the Grandview Tower conference room, wearing a suit for the first time since Sarah's funeral. The faces around the table were a mix of old and new. Some board members who'd survived the purge, others who'd been brought in to replace Victoria's allies. Hannah was there, promoted to Director of Corporate Ethics. Edgar sat at the far end of the table, an honorary board position created specifically for him. Good morning, Marcus said, taking his seat at the head of the table. Let's get started. The agenda was ambitious. Complete restructuring of employee policies, new safety protocols, a compensation fund for victims of the previous regime, and most importantly, a fundamental shift in company culture. I want to be clear about something, Marcus said, looking around the room. This company was built by my wife's grandfather. He started it in a garage with nothing but a dream of creating something that mattered. Somewhere along the way, that dream got lost. We're going to find it again. What exactly does that look like? Asked one of the new board members, a woman named Patricia Hayes, who'd spent 20 years in labor advocacy. It looks like treating every employee like a human being. It looks like paying fair wages and providing real benefits. It looks like creating an environment where people can speak up without fear of retaliation. Marcus pulled out a thick folder. I've spent the past 3 years learning how this company really works. Not from reports and spreadsheets, but from the people who actually do the work. The janitors, the housekeepers, the security guards. They know more about what's broken than any consultant ever could. He slid copies of the folder to everyone at the table. These are their recommendations, not mine. Theirs. I want every single one of them reviewed and implemented within the next 6 months. The meeting lasted 4 hours. By the end, they'd approved a 15% wage increase for all hourly employees, a comprehensive healthcare plan, and a whistleblower protection program that Hannah would personally oversee. As the board members filed out, Edgar lingered behind. "That was quite a performance," he said. "It wasn't a performance." "I know." Edgar smiled. "That's what made it so impressive." "I couldn't have done any of this without you, Ed. 40 years of keeping records. 40 years of believing the truth would matter someday." "I didn't believe it," Edgar admitted. "Not really. I just couldn't stop hoping." "Same thing, isn't it?" Edgar thought about that. "Maybe it is." The following months brought changes Marcus never could have anticipated. Hannah's ethics department uncovered 3 more cases of embezzlement and dozens of instances of workplace harassment, all from the Victoria era. Each one was addressed publicly with full transparency. The settlements cost the company millions, but Marcus insisted on paying every penny. "We're not buying silence," he told the board. "We're buying back our integrity." William Torres was hired as the new director of building safety. His first act was to rename the safety training center after his brother Michael, whose death had finally been acknowledged and mourned. Margaret Chen returned to the hospitality industry, her reputation restored by a public statement from Grandview Corporation, acknowledging the wrongful destruction of her career. She was offered a position at the Grandview, but declined, choosing instead to start her own consulting firm specializing in workplace discrimination cases. "I appreciate the offer," she told Marcus when they met for coffee. "But I think I can do more good from the outside, holding companies accountable, making sure what happened to me doesn't happen to someone else." That's exactly what Sarah would have wanted. Margaret paused coffee cup halfway to her lips. "You talk about her a lot, your wife. She's the reason I did all of this, her and Lily. Do you think she'd be proud of how it turned out?" Marcus thought about the question. Really thought about it. "I think she'd be proud that I kept my promises. But I also think she'd tell me to stop looking backward and start living forward." Sounds like good advice. She was full of good advice. I just wasn't always smart enough to listen. 6 months after the shareholder meeting, Marcus received an unexpected letter. It was from Victoria Shaw, written on prison stationery. The handwriting was careful, controlled, nothing like the woman who'd screamed at him in the lobby. "Mr. Brennan," the letter began, "I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect forgiveness or understanding. But I need to say some things, if only for myself. I've had a lot of time to think in here, about what I did, about who I became, about the people I hurt without ever seeing them as real. You asked me once when the last time was that I believed in something. I didn't have an answer then. I still don't, not really. But I'm starting to understand that the emptiness inside me was something I created. Something I chose day after day, decision after decision. I don't know if I'll ever be capable of real change. The therapist they make me see says I have empathy deficits. That's a clinical way of saying I never learned to care about anyone but myself. But I'm trying. Not for you. Not for the victims. For me. Because I don't want to die in here as the person I was when I came in. I don't expect anything from you. Not forgiveness. Not response. Just know that I'm trying. Victoria Shaw. Marcus read the letter 3 times. Then he folded it carefully and put it in his desk drawer. He didn't respond. Some things didn't require words. Some things just needed time. Lily started 2nd grade in September. Marcus walked her to school on the first day, her hand warm in his. She wore a new backpack and new shoes and a new dress that she'd picked out herself. "Daddy, what if nobody likes me?" "Then they're missing out on the best person I know." "What if I don't remember how to be a regular kid? I was in the hospital so long." "You were always a regular kid, Lily. You just had some extra challenges to deal with. That doesn't make you different. It makes you strong." They reached the school gates. Other parents were walking their children in, some crying, some laughing, all of them experiencing that universal mix of pride and terror that comes with letting go. Daddy. Yeah. You don't have to wait. I can go in by myself. Marcus looked at his daughter, 7 years old, survivor of a disease that should have killed her, braver than anyone he'd ever known. I know you can, but I want to walk you in. Is that okay? Lily thought about it, then nodded. Okay, but just to the door. Then you have to go. Deal. They walked across the playground together, past the swings and the slides and the groups of children already forming their complicated social hierarchies. At the entrance, Lily stopped and turned to face him. Daddy, thank you. For what? For not giving up. For keeping your promises. For being my daddy. Marcus knelt down so they were eye to eye. Thank you for being my daughter. Thank you for fighting so hard. Thank you for giving me a reason to keep going when I wanted to quit. Lily hugged him fiercely. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, brave girl. Now go show them what you're made of. She ran inside without looking back. Marcus stood there watching until she disappeared around a corner. Then he turned and walked toward the parking lot, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. Edgar was waiting by the car. How'd it go? She didn't need me at all. That's how you know you did something right. They drove to the office together as they'd been doing since Edgar's promotion. The old man had become Marcus's closest advisor, the voice of experience and institutional memory that no amount of money could buy. Big day today, Edgar said as they pulled into the parking garage. The dedication ceremony. Nervous? A little. I was never much for public speaking. You'll be fine. Just speak from the heart. That's what you've been doing all along. The ceremony took place in the main lobby of Grandview Tower, the same lobby where Victoria had struck Marcus, the same marble floor where he'd knelt and called himself worthless. Now that floor was covered with chairs for the 200 guests who'd come to witness the unveiling of the Sarah Whitmore Memorial Plaza. The renovation had transformed the space into something warm and welcoming, with comfortable seating areas, living plants, and a beautiful water feature that filled the air with gentle sound. But the centerpiece was the wall. It stretched 20 feet across and 10 feet high, covered with photographs and names. Every employee who'd been wrongfully terminated. Every guest who'd faced discrimination. Every person who'd suffered under the old regime and found the courage to tell their story. At the very top, in letters of polished brass, was a quote from Sarah that Marcus had found in her old journals. Every person who walks through these doors deserves to feel like they belong. That's not charity. That's basic human decency. Marcus stood at the podium, looking out at the faces before him. Hannah and her team in the front row. William Torres and his family. Margaret Chen, who'd traveled across the country for the event. And in the very back, barely visible Lily, with her new teacher, brought on a special field trip to see what her daddy had been building. 3 years ago, Marcus began. I made a promise to my wife as she was dying. I promised her I would take care of our daughter. And I promised her I would get back the company her grandfather built, not for money, not for power, but because she believed this place could be something special. He paused, gathering his thoughts. I spent those 3 years working as a janitor in this building. I mopped floors. I cleaned toilets. I made myself invisible because I needed to see what was really happening here, not the polished reports that executives read, but the truth that ordinary workers lived every day. What I saw broke my heart. Good people being treated like they didn't matter, complaints being buried, lives being destroyed by someone who thought power meant never having to care about anyone else. His eyes found Edgar in the crowd. But I also saw something else. I saw courage. I saw a man who kept records for 40 years because he believed the truth would matter someday. I saw a young woman risk her career to do what was right. I saw victims become witnesses, and witnesses become advocates. He turned toward the memorial wall. This wall isn't just about remembering what went wrong. It's about honoring the people who refused to stay silent. Every name here represents someone who chose truth over comfort, Justice over safety, hope over despair. His voice grew stronger. My wife believed that every person deserves to feel like they belong. She believed that dignity isn't something you earn, it's something you're born with. And she believed that those of us who have power have a responsibility to use it for something more than ourselves. He looked at Lily, still watching from the back of the room. I kept my promises, Sarah, both of them. Our daughter is healthy and happy and starting her life. And your grandfather's company is becoming what you always knew it could be. He stepped back from the podium. This plaza, this wall, this new beginning, it's not named after me. It's named after the person who made it all possible. Sarah Whitmore Brennan, the best person I ever knew, the love of my life, the mother of my child. He placed his hand on the brass letters of her name. Rest easy, sweetheart. We're going to be okay. The applause started slowly, then built to a crescendo that echoed off the marble walls. Marcus stood there accepting it, but his eyes never left his daughter's face. After the ceremony, as the crowd dispersed and the caterers began cleaning up, Lily found her way to her father's side. Daddy. Hey, brave girl, what did you think? It was beautiful. She looked up at the memorial wall. Is that Mommy's name, the big one at the top? That's her. She would have liked this, wouldn't she? I think she would have liked it very much. Lily was quiet for a moment, studying the photographs and names. Daddy, all these people, the bad things that happened to them, you fixed it. I helped. A lot of people helped. Edgar and Hannah and William and Margaret and many others. They're the real heroes. But you started it. You promised Mommy, and you kept your promise. Marcus knelt down beside his daughter. You know what the hardest part was? What? Not giving up. There were so many times I wanted to quit. So many times it seemed impossible. But every time I felt like that, I thought about you. About how brave you were fighting your sickness every single day. If my little girl could be that strong, I figured her daddy could be strong too. Lily threw her arms around his neck. We're both strong, Daddy. We're the strongest. Yes, we are. Edgar appeared at Marcus's shoulder. Sorry to interrupt, but there's someone here who wants to meet you. Marcus stood, keeping Lily's hand in his. A young woman approached mid-20s, nervous. She was wearing a maintenance uniform with a Grandview name tag. Mr. Brennan, I'm sorry to bother you. I know you're busy. It's no bother. What's your name? Rosa Mendez. Gloria was my grandmother. Marcus felt something catch in his chest. Gloria Mendez. One of the names on the wall. A housekeeper who'd been denied workers' compensation after an injury, then fired when she complained. I read about what you did for my grandmother, Rosa continued. The settlement, the public acknowledgement. It meant everything to her before she passed. I'm sorry for your loss. Thank you. Rosa's eyes glistened. I just wanted to say what you're doing here, the way you're running this company. Now my grandmother would have been so proud. She always said that someday someone would care. She never gave up believing that. Marcus looked at this young woman wearing the same uniform he'd worn for 3 years. Neither did I. Would it be okay if I... Rosa hesitated. Would it be okay if I took a picture with you, by my grandmother's name on the wall? I want to send it to my mother. I'd be honored. They walked together to the memorial wall, finding Gloria's photograph among the many. Rosa's grandmother looked out at them from the past tired eyes, weathered face, but something unbroken in her expression. Hannah took the picture. Rosa thanked Marcus again and hurried back to her shift. She's going to be promoted, Marcus said to no one in particular. I want to make sure she has the same opportunities her grandmother was denied. Already done, Hannah said. She's being transferred to the management training program next month. Marcus smiled. Good. That's good. The sun was setting by the time Marcus and Lily left the building. They walked hand in hand across the plaza, past the water feature and the comfortable benches, past the brass letters of Sarah's name, gleaming in the golden light. "Daddy." "Yeah." "Are we rich now?" Marcus laughed. "I suppose we are." "Why?" "Can we get ice cream?" "Absolutely." "And a dog?" "We'll talk about it." "And a swimming pool." "Now you're pushing it." They walked on, leaving Grandview Tower behind them. The building rose against the evening sky, its windows glowing warmly, its doors open to anyone who wanted to enter. A new family was checking into the hotel on the 40th floor, a black couple with 2 small children, given the same welcome and the same service as everyone else. In the basement, the overnight cleaning crew was beginning their shift, their wages 15% higher than they'd been a year ago, their benefits comprehensive, their dignity intact. In the boardroom, plans were being made for a scholarship program that would help underprivileged students enter the hospitality industry. And in a prison cell 300 miles away, a woman named Victoria Shaw was writing in a journal, trying to understand how she'd become someone capable of striking a stranger in the face for the crime of being in her way. Marcus knew none of this as he walked with his daughter toward the ice cream shop on the corner. He was thinking about simpler things. Chocolate versus vanilla. Whether they should get sprinkles. Whether there was time to stop at the park before dinner. "Daddy." "Yes, sweetheart." "I'm happy." The words were so simple, so ordinary, but they hit Marcus like a wave washing away the last traces of fear and grief and exhaustion that had been his constant companions for so long. "Me too, brave girl. Me too." They reached the ice cream shop. Through the window, Marcus could see families, laughing couples holding hands, children pressing their faces against the glass display case. Ordinary people living ordinary lives. The most precious thing in the world. Lily tugged at his hand. "Come on, Daddy. They might run out of chocolate." "They won't run out of chocolate." "But what if they do?" Marcus opened the door for his daughter, the little bell tinkling overhead. "Then we'll try vanilla, and you know what? It'll still be perfect." Lily ran to the counter, her laughter echoing off the walls. Marcus followed slowly, savoring every step. 3 years of waiting. 3 years of fighting. 3 years of keeping promises he'd made to a dying woman in a hospice bed. It had all led here. To this moment. To this ice cream shop. To his daughter, healthy and happy, arguing passionately for extra sprinkles. Sometimes, the biggest victories don't happen in boardrooms or courtrooms. Sometimes, they happen in the small moments, the quiet moments, the moments that remind you why you fought so hard in the first place. Marcus ordered 1 chocolate, 1 vanilla, extra sprinkles on both. They sat at a little table by the window, watching the world go by. "Daddy." "Yeah. This is the best day of my life." Marcus looked at his daughter, ice cream already smeared across her chin, eyes bright with pure, uncomplicated joy. "Mine too, sweetheart." And for the first time in 3 years, Marcus Brennan knew exactly what happiness felt like. Not the absence of pain, not the end of struggle, but the presence of love strong enough to carry you through the darkest nights and patient enough to wait for the dawn. He had kept his promises, all of them, and in the end, that was the only thing that mattered.